I'm not concerned about justifying or exonerating or defending or critiquing Ibn Taymiyyah's harshness. It's a fact. He felt the Ash'aris were a deviant school, but he was in his personal life soft upon them. That's the irony. In his writing, he was a bit harsh, but one-on-one dealing with a human element, he was very soft, very kind. When his opponent who wanted to get him jailed died, he actually visited the widow, gave them help and said, I am here to help you in his loss. There's a humanity that is absent in his writings. And by the way, there's a whiff of this in the online world as well, that when the person becomes online, that you actually find Ibn Taymiyyah to be a very soft and gentle person one-on-one, but in the writings he was a little bit harsh. I would say you can find examples of much worse harshness in many other strands. But yes, I do agree with you that Ibn Taymiyyah took a very strict stance on what he deemed orthodoxy, and hence was very unsympathetic to any strand outside of his own. My simple question is, are we obliged to follow that level of strictness in our times? And I don't think we are.
What you described there of Islamic history.
No, that's a mischaracterization. He's describing like extreme strictness. Ibn Taymiyyah is extremely strict, and these other Ash'aris before, I mean, this is what the Wahhabis today will point out. They'll say that, yeah, well, you're calling for tolerance, but guess what? The Ahl Hadith, the students of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and the students of his students, they're doing takfir of the Ash'aris and the Jahmiyyah and the Maturidis. So what? And the Ash'aris in turn were making takfir of the Ahl Hadith and the Hanbalis as well. It was make takfir and get takfired back and forth. You know, that's what we want for our time. Like, that's what we're implementing in our time. That's what's required of us in Islam. And Yasir Qadhi is not really challenging that. He's agreeing, like, yeah, that is what the past has been like, and we need to transcend that past. We need to transcend that tradition. Why? On what basis? Like, what principled basis? He just makes a kind of vague appeal to tolerance, a vague appeal to maslahah. Like, this is not in the interest of the community, and we just have to be tolerant. The problem is he's not specifying principles for tolerance. So if we're tolerant, why don't we tolerate Ismailis? Why don't we tolerate, let's tolerate the Quranists. Let's tolerate whatever other deviant group that pops up. Let's just tolerate them. He's not actually giving us principles to specify on the basis of what previous scholars have said. He's just making his own principles. He's saying that, well, we have this idea of the kalima, and what he said, I won't repeat it, what he just said in the past 5 minutes. But this is just on the basis of his own vague notion of tolerance, not on the basis of a principled understanding of the nusus, not on the basis of what prior scholars have said about the circle of tolerance. When Imam Ghazali has Faisal al-Tafriqa, his work specifically on the bounds of what is within the fold of Islam and without the fold of Islam, that is a principled explanation of the bounds of Islamic tolerance that you see from Imam Ghazali. But the way that Yasir Qadhi is characterizing things is like, well, this tolerance actually didn't exist in the past. This tolerance, we have to bring, we're not bound by their intolerance in the past. We have to be tolerant today. We have to be anti-sectarian today. My criticism is that you're mischaracterizing the past. The anti-sectarian sentiment exists on a principled basis in the works of our greatest scholars. And to claim that Ibn Taymiyyah was somehow intolerant or hateful, even though he kind of walked it back a little bit, he said, well, maybe in his writings he was really intolerant and hateful, but in his personal life, this is a mischaracterization of Ibn Taymiyyah.